Nigeria has been signing multiple trade and investment partnership memorandum with partners including India, the UAE, Turkey, and the United States. Now, these MOUs cover sectors such as agriculture, energy, infrastructure, and logistics. But while Nigeria's trade surplus has been rising, the country's productivity remains low, threatening to limit the real domestic impact of these trade agreements, as many deals are yet to translate into tangible economic gains. But how can Nigeria translate the increase in trade paperwork into performance and reproductive investment, local content, value chain, and job creation? Joining me to discuss this is Adefeko. He's a policy analyst, an agribusiness executive, and a former chairman of Agribusiness Group at NASIMA. Great having you on the exchange tonight. Thank you. It's a Friday. Thank God it's a Friday.
Thank God it's a Friday.
Thank God it's a Friday. What steps can Nigeria take to turn these MOUs into measurable economic results?
Good question. Many MOUs signed over the years, over the decades. We used to have a chief trade negotiation officer back in the day. He died, I think, 3, 4, 5 years ago. We've replaced him, but I'm not quite sure what the current one is doing. But again, it's not about talking about what X or Y is doing. It's talking about the opportunities. What Nigeria must leverage. 1, financial infrastructure. We have it. Let's use it. 2, we must make sure that our digital trade hubs work for us. How well are they working for us now? Not too much. Our legal and arbitration frameworks need to be properly harnessed and used. We're not doing that. Export financing and insurance mechanisms. They exist, but how well do we use them? We're a hub for many things. But how do we take advantage? We signed SEPA, which happened about 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, in UAE.
So, which is, and coincidentally, I was with the Minister of Trade in Davos, and we had conversations on trade, and to a large extent.
And that was at the Nigeria House.
Yeah, the Nigeria House. Yeah, yes. Because for us at Davos, that was a very great moment for us in the sense that we had a house for once. Before I think we used to have a home, but now we have a house. That's in a lighter note. On a more serious note, I think we went to Davos. We stood up to be counted, but we need to make sure that all the MOUs we have signed or we have entered into translate into tangible results. I recall that I went with the president's team or on the delegation of the president for the very first official visit, which coincided with the G20 summit in India. And I think, I can't quite remember, I think January 3 years ago or thereabouts. A lot of MOUs were signed, but what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. We need to sit down, put our feet to fire, and talk about what we need to do. So back to your question, what we need to do, we need to make sure that we don't major in minor. We've been majoring in minor for quite a while. We sign a lot of deals, we don't follow through. We have bilateral agreements. After bilateral agreements are signed, the people who are supposed to, technocrats who are supposed to execute. Again, private sector, very, very important. There's no nexus.
Do you think there's a disconnect first? At the official bureaucracy level, then you talk about the private sector. You've been in NASIMA, yes. And I'm sure as in other roles, engaging with government officials in terms of external communications and all of that, you can tell us a little bit more about what do you see on ground in terms of how we move from paperwork to performance. Because performance is what we want to see. We don't want to sign agreements and at the end of the day, the trade surplus and everything go to these foreign countries, India, Turkey, China, whatever.
Luckily for us, we have been having discussions with what you call the Global South. The only Global North we've been having discussions with is America. Of course, America is America. America is doing things.
We have big deals with the EU as well.
Yes. We're having deals with the EU as a bloc, but we should be having deals with the EU countries, not as a bloc. We're not doing bloc relationships now. We should be having what you call direct bilaterals.
Like with France?
Exactly. So like with France, like with the UK. And for me, that's very, very important. Again, India, to a large extent, Global South, number one. Brazil, we've gone there, we're talking about agriculture. There are many things we're talking about, we're doing. But as we speak right now, a lot of what we have signed are skewed towards, the counterpart. So what are we doing with respect to making sure that we make sure we execute? Execution is you have a plan. Short-term, medium-term, long-term. Parastatals that are supposed to be in there must go with the president at every point in time. NASIMA, LCCI, Nigerian Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, Nigerian India Chamber of Commerce. Those kind of things are the things that people that go with you.
We don't see much of that.
We don't see much of that. What happens is that government goes with trade, X, parastatal, Y parastatal, and that's it. You spoke to something, a disconnect.
Yes,
that disconnect, there's a misalignment. We need to have an alignment. That alignment must be proper. There must be a nexus. We must see symmetry. Right now, there's no symmetry. We are going asymmetrical. The question you ask is, but why? So, for me, moving forward, visits with by the president to countries, we must make sure that we go with our organized private sector. Secondly, another important thing, we have embassies, high commissions. They have trade offices, or they have representatives of trade. Those guys should be engaging. We all know that before the end of the year, the president will engage on X number of trips or Y number of trips, be they state visits, be they official visits. Not important. The important thing is that the president is the chief marketing officer of the country, but he must go with the lieutenants. The lieutenants are not the ministers. The lieutenants are who? The organized private sector. They are the ones that will concretize the deals. I remember being in India. My company, for example, which is Olam Agri, is already pledged $45 million for soya crush. We've already executed and we're already implemented. Indorama spoke to its own part of it. Indorama is the largest exporter after oil and gas. They do something in the neighborhood of about $500 million. We are second, Olam Food Ingredients, between $300 and $350 million. But you know what? We must make sure that we do things properly, in an organized manner.
So we need more business executives,
yes,
and trade organizations.
Yes. And we need what you call a chief trade officer in the Federal Ministry of Trade to be the anchorman or the anchor person. We're talking about ACFTA. I was with the Secretary General, Wamkele Mene, who is South African. And Wamkele Mene is one of the most knowledgeable trade persons on the continent. He started in the Ministry of Trade in South Africa. And that's from where he was taken and said, you know what, go and do it for us in South Africa. Go and do it for the continent. ACFTA, 3.5 trillion market, 1.5 billion people, 55 countries. What more can you ask for?
So now we're talking about, we've gotten some level of trade surplus rising over the last 2025. That's good news. But we look at productivity locally, because when we sign deals, we've got to come back home and produce. So when we talk about our level of productivity, do you think we're ready to match what is on paper with the reality in terms of our industrial manufacturing?
Our industrial manufacturing base is very low because we have a problem of what? Infrastructure. Infrastructure is a problem. We have what you call the products or the raw materials, but infrastructure is a problem. From seed to shelf, it's tough. Power is a challenge, recurring decimal. Again, inputs, sometimes government policies, but I will be frank, on the monetary side, we've had a bit of stability in the last 18 to 36 months. And kudos must go to the central bank governor for that. Again, on the fiscal side, we started with a new fiscal imperative, which started in January 1st. Again, as a country, we must not major in minor. For those who understand music, majoring in minor is what it is. You major in minor. Let's not major in minor. Let's major in major and minor in minor.
Do you think it's not too fast for Nigerians to begin to say, hey, we've seen these MOUs being signed. The president has been on the road since he took office. And I guess he's been to so many countries. And for now, folks are beginning to ask, what timeline should Nigerians expect for what are called visible outcomes from these agreements before we end up piling up so much paperwork on the shelf, gathering dust without delivering stronger GDP, creating jobs, creating value chain, creating local content for Nigerians, for our benefit?
I spoke to something at the onset of the program. There has to be a nexus. There has to be a convergence. Right now, there's no convergence. All we do is we go for the meetings, we go for the state visits, we go to the official visits, the ministers of trade, and some of the agencies of government, NEPC, NIPC. You see, you talk about trade agreements, you talk about relationships, bilateral, multilateral, otherwise. You have companies in the country, DDIs. What are the DDIs doing? The multinationals will ask the DDIs, domestic direct investment, what has the government done for you lately? Taking a cue from that, they come in. Capital is mobile, the last time I checked. And capital goes where? Where it's welcome.
Yes. And
the last time I checked, the question people will ask is, what have you done for me lately? If I remember, that's a song.
Yeah, that was. Yes, that was.
So for me, I think government must be strategic, intentional, deliberate. When you go for these visits, go with organized private sector. Organized private sector, very important. be it NASIMA, be it Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, be it NECA, the whole potpourri, the whole, what you call the ensemble of everything.
So if NASIMA and others were not on the roadshow, whatever, but when the ministers return.
When the ministers return, there should be a debate.
That's exactly what I'm about.
What should happen is when the ministers return from these visits, there should be a
Minister of Agriculture, tourism,
there should be
power.
See, when you're going, let me quickly explain to viewers how these things happen. Before you go on a state visit or an official visit, these things are organized months, sometimes years in advance. So they don't just happen. It's not by happenstance. It is deliberate. It is created. So the president didn't just wake up and said he was going to Turkey. He didn't just wake up and said he was going to UAE. These things have been in pipeline. So what should happen right now is the calendar of the president's visits should be shared with the private sector. We're not talking about the dates now. Just let us know that the president is going to X, Y, Z. Okay? Let's just have that with the private sector. NASIMA particularly. Let's have a heads up. In every chamber of commerce of Nigeria, be it NASIMA, LCCI, there are trade groups. These trade groups are agriculture, creative economy, so let's know
mining.
Let's know what the president is going to talk about. Then, on the basis of that, I remember back in the day when I used to be the chairman of Agri-Value Chain in the chamber. Dele Oye was the chairman. Coincidentally and luckily, Dele Oye is Nigerian-Turkish chamber. So he was there in Turkey. So he understands the issues. So he will come back to Nigeria and tell us what happened between Nigeria and Turkey and what we need to do.
A bit of a debriefing and an action plan.
An action plan because of the fact that we signed, I think, about 10 or 11.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, there's so many.
So you're talking about defense, you're talking about economy, you're talking about, a plethora.
Yes.
And for me, sometimes we need to begin to cherry pick. We cannot be everywhere. Comparative advantage, very important. Trade already skewed against you. What do you do to achieve what you call an equilibrium? Balance of trade.
So we can just say about a plethora of...
Yes, because what happens is that,
So we need to be a bit more strategic.
Yes.
Maybe narrow it down to just 2 or 3.
Yes, and you know what? Those 2 or 3, you have to look at the countries particularly. Look at Brazil, for example. Brazil is strong in agriculture.
Yes.
Let's go there. Ethanol. Turkey, in fabrics and the likes, machinery, light machinery.
So we'll go lock that down.
UAE, for example, the likes of, they have the likes of dates and all those other things that we use for other ancillaries.
And energy.
So for me, let's just know, everybody has what you call, they have their strong points. So in an earlier program in the week, I spoke about the food belts of the world, the pampas of Argentina, the velds of South Africa, and the prairies of Canada. Those are food belts that are deliberate and strategic by the governments of those countries. We must have one as well. There's no point having what you call agro-processing areas where we're seeing nothing coming out of it. You spoke to something. MOUs
from paperwork.
Excuse my French. MOUs as useless as the paper you sign. If you don't action it, nothing happens.
Yes, that's from paperwork to performance.
Yes, sir.
All right. You've performed.
Paperwork to performance.
You've performed tonight. You've performed tonight.
I try to for my tomorrow to give
it's good to have you around. I know you're really passionate about agriculture and we can spend the whole day.
No, I'm passionate about the entire value chain.
I love that.
And it's important that we'll probably come and speak to the economy.
We need to. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And do have a great weekend. It's a Friday evening.
And this is the last Friday for the month.
Yes.
So we have 11 months.
You boys go out. Yeah, time moves very fast.
Because 11 months we have technically 10 months. Because in December, nothing happens.
All right. Sometimes I get the numbers could be very scary. Adefeko, agribusiness expert and former chairman of Agribusiness Group at NASIMA.